change on a scale and intensity with a passion. Even you don't know the revolution you are creating around you. This is today the new India. This is the India which, if it carries on for the next 25 years, will be the Viksit Bharat that we are all aspiring to. So, I must tell you, the reason the foreign minister has come is to draw encouragement, hope, sustenance from all of you, but also tell you that this 25 years is your era. It's your achievements, your talents, your motivation that will decide really where India is going. Now, I have spoken to you about the world, about, in a way, some of the achievements which has had an impact. But the truth is also, the world is a very tough place. The world is a very tough place. You can see that, you saw it during COVID. You can see it in terms of today, the impact of conflict. You can see it in terms of the security challenges. You can see it in terms of climate events. So, but what is necessary for all of us to understand is that the world matters to us. That era where the world was beyond our borders and we were safe inside our borders, that era is now over. Borders are actually, in terms of sovereignty, extremely important. But when we speak about globalization, everything that happens in the world outside will impact your life, and everything you are doing here, particularly if you're doing it on scale, in terms of a different level of achievement, that will also impact the world. And I say this to you because this is today the world in which we have assumed the G20 presidency. So why is our G20 presidency different? Because, you know, there have been other countries who have done G20 for a variety of reasons. The first reason is actually the chair. The fact is, India has assumed the G20 presidency at a moment when India is mattering more and more to the world. It is mattering more to its world, partly because of our economic achievements, that from number 12 or number 10, we have now become the number 5 economy. It is mattering because today, whether it's technology, it could be digital, it could be our talent. I gave you Chandrayaan as an example, but you can see it in other ways as well. That we are today recognized as essential to the global workplace, to the global talent pool. It matters because we also today have demonstrated a capability. We have demonstrated a capability of helping other countries. I spoke to you about vaccine supplies, but you can see even today in, you know, some country has an earthquake. Turkey had an earthquake earlier this year. We were among the first countries who were able to send a contingent out there to rescue people. But it's also because we look after our people. The respect that we get in the world because we look after our people. When we went into Ukraine under Operation Ganga to get our students out, or when we went to Sudan under Operation Kaveri to rescue people, 5,000 people who are working in Sudan. So in the eyes of the world today, it is our economic achievements, it's our technology capabilities, it's our talent pool, it is actually our capabilities, and it is a fact that all of this is done as a democracy. This combination puts India in a very special position, and therefore India's presidency of the G20 has expectations and responsibilities which are very exceptional. Now, one part of it is, as I say, it's about us and how we are perceived. But it's also the decisions we made about how we are going to conduct our presidency. Typically, a presidency is done in meetings. I have attended maybe more than 10 G20 meetings in my life. Mostly conference hall होता है, लोग आते हैं, airport से conference hall जाते हैं, meet, have a dinner, sign some piece of paper and you go. So if you look at the impact on the society or the input of the society, there is very little. This G20 presidency is completely different. You know, we use the word Jan Bhagidari, and truly we mean it. This is the first G20 certainly I have seen in my long career, where the people of the country, where every region, multiple cities, different walks of life, from colleges to professional associations to the ordinary citizen, feels connected to that G20. And we are doing it because in Prime Minister Modi's view, in his vision, we want to use the G20 to prepare to make the world ready for India, that India which all of you are going to make. We also want India to be ready for the world. We want especially the younger generation, and we want the cities and towns and the states and union territories of India to actually understand fully the opportunities and the possibilities in the world out there. And in the last year, the difference we have been able to make is we have not done the G20 as an official program, we have done it as a national celebration. And that is actually a G20 with a difference. Now, what is the challenge in the G20? There are two big challenges. One is what is called the divide between the North and the South. The developed North is a term for developed countries. South is a term for developing countries. So, Viksit Desh hai, jo Vikashsheel Desh hai. So, their gap, their divide which has been growing. And secondly, the polarization that we see today between the what you can call the East and the West, particularly as a result of the Ukraine conflict. So you have an East-West problem, you have a North-South problem. Guess who is in the middle? That's us. It is our responsibility today to find a way of bringing the world together, and we are confident of discharging this responsibility precisely because, as I said, we have today a respect in the world coming from our governance, coming from our economy, coming from our technology, coming from our independent foreign policy stance. So that sense today that this is a fair India, a generous India, a connected India, that these people will conduct their presidency responsibly, taking every view into account and find a landing ground which will be acceptable to everybody. That is today the task before the G20. Now, I had mentioned the world is a very difficult place, and it is a difficult place because, as I noted, we had a once-in-a-century pandemic, COVID, and COVID has had a terrible consequence across the world. You know, there are parts, in India at least we have recovered in many ways. I must tell you, many parts, many countries have not been able to recover the manner in which we have. Secondly, the conflict, because again, it has shown today how much the world matters to us. That a conflict is taking place in Ukraine, an entire continent away. And that conflict is today creating problems in fuel cost, in availability and prices of food grains, in the access to and the price of fertilizers. It is actually creating inflation across the global economy. So the COVID, 3 years of COVID, a year of this conflict, already large parts of the world were struggling with debt issues, trade issues. And then we are seeing more and more climate events. And climate events of a very large kind, which actually impact an entire economy, entire country, sometimes an entire continent. So how is this reflected? We are seeing this in the challenges that we have to address. The debt and inflation, I spoke to you. You know, by the end of this decade, we are supposed, all the developing world, we should have attained what are called sustainable development goals. That means better health, better education, better literacy, better nutrition, better living, better water, better energy. The truth is, after 3 years of COVID, a year of this conflict, other problems created by globalization, the world is not going to get to its targets. This is one of our biggest worries. A second big worry, everybody says climate action, but the resources for the climate action are not there. Countries are not putting, especially the developed countries, are not putting the money which they had committed to. So how do we today address these problems? These are really the big concerns. And these concerns, you know, it starts somewhere, it will end up somewhere else. I mean, the moment, for example, there is, you see that there is less resource for education or for health, in almost every society, the impact is borne more by girls than by boys. Because every family, family in the world prioritizes. So what happens is, you can have a situation where the resources of the society are less. We think of it as a budget problem, we think of it as a debt problem, but it is finally a social problem. That if there is somebody who doesn't go to school, sadly, it is often the girl who doesn't go to school. If somebody's health or there's a shortage of food, you know. So all the progress that the world has made in terms of health, in terms of nutrition, in terms of gender, in terms of education and literacy, today these are the question marks which are facing the world. This is why today our G20 presidency is exceptionally important. That we have to get the world to focus on the real problems. These are the real problems of the world. And when we take the lead, because as I said, we are seen as a fair country, we are seen as a generous country, we are seen as a country which has always thought of the world while thinking of itself. So we have the credibility today to lead, especially in the last 10 years, when people have seen, the world has seen, we have built an inclusive society in India. And they know that a country which builds inclusiveness at home will also support justice abroad. So what we did this year was that we started our G20 in a very unusual way. We started it not by engaging our G20 partners. We deliberately engaged the countries who are not coming for the G20. We asked 125 countries who are the developing countries of the world and told them, saying, look, we will be talking to those 20, and there are another 9 countries who will be guests. So these 30. But you have concerns. You are worried about sustainable development goals. You are worried about debt. You are worried about climate. You are worried about gender. You are worried about health. So we sat with them, Prime Minister himself and many of us ministers. We sat with 125 countries in January of this year for what we called the Voice of the Global South. So this G20 will be a different G20 because we have made Global South not only part of the lexicon of international relations, we have put Global South on the conscience of the world. That is what will actually play out in the first week of September. So do understand today that in all of this, you know, our achievements, our capabilities, everything that we have done, because I must tell you, when, you know, as someone who probably spends half my time traveling abroad, The world is fascinated by what is happening in India. That when the conversation I spoke to you about, that when I tell a foreign leader, we give food support to 800 million people, they cannot believe that number. When you tell them that under, say, Mudra, we give loans to 400 million people, that under Nawaz Yojana, and all of this is in the last 10 years, that in 10 years, 150 million people are living in new homes because of the support given by the government. 95 million women today are not breathing firewood because of the Ujjwala program. That you have, as I said, Anna Yojana, 80 crores, 800 million people who get the essential nutrition because of food from the government. Or under the Jan Arogya Yojana, 1/3 of our country, more than 1/3 of our country today, is actually getting access to health. And all of this is possible, just like those cashless financial transactions. It is possible because we have today made that big leap into becoming a digital society. That digital society is the basis for the good governance that we have seen for the last 10 years. And if we can take it forward for another generation, for 25 years more, I can assure you that we will be in a completely different zone. So what I would like to do is finally, because I want to leave some time for questions. So I will end finally with one more thought for your consideration. I have spoken about our achievements, about technology, about leadership, about vision. But finally, never underestimate the power of ideas. That today, India is actually seen, and our Prime Minister personally is seen, as a very powerful propagator of ideas. And I saw that for myself when I was still ambassador in the United States in 2014. He came up with the idea of an International Day of Yoga. Okay. To be very honest, many of us, and I would admit to you very honestly, I myself didn't fully appreciate what a global impact it would make if you can actually get the entire world on a single day to realize what the practice of yoga, what the benefits of yoga can be. And if you see since then, we have changed the world's thinking about solar energy through the International Solar Alliance. Today, we are trying to change the world's food habits through the International Year of Millets. We have created a collective way of responding to disasters through a coalition of disaster response. In fact, one of the really imaginative ideas is something called One Sun, One World, One Grid, where actually you can keep generating energy as the sun travels through the world, and if you have the grid will keep passing that energy. So the whole perception today of India is not just a happening place where these big leaps of technology are made. It is also a place, a country which is today seen as responsible, which is seen as innovative, which is seen as actually driving global progress. I think that is the biggest inheritance that we can give to the up and coming generations. So I am very confident that when one day you will all look back, you will all remember 2023. 2023 as a big year for India, as a year when our G20 presidency put us on a different place in the map of the world. And that is not just a memory I want you to have. I want you to think of that as a baseline from which all of you then took this country over the next 25 years during the Amrit Kaal to the goal of having a Viksit Bharat. So once again, really, thank you for turning out in such large numbers. I'm really very, very touched. And I can stand here Okay, I'll sit there perhaps and be happy to respond to any questions.
धन्यवाद सर.
That topic of conversation was the Chandrayaan landing. And the most, to me, I mean, one was, it's like you feel you are on a big stage, something big has happened in your country, you're already like a little bit walking a little bit taller and higher. But the greatest satisfaction for me that day was this sense from all the leaders that India has done it, but we, the leaders of Africa, of Latin America, of Asia, we also see this as something as motivating, it is your success, but we also feel somewhere it is our success. We share it, we are happy, it's like a family member doing something very well. Now, I start with this experience because especially the young people of India have to understand that everything you are doing will do your...
Ma'am, can we please have a mic here?
Thank you so much. I don't want to ask a question, but I just want to add to what you said. And it's just in one line. I think it's high time that India should be not only G20, but G195, the number of countries we have, that India should be called the peacemaker and peacekeeper of the whole world. Keeping in view, right from Adi Kal till today, India has been looked upon to keep peace in the whole world. Imagine our Prime Minister coming back from America and the President of Russia calling up and saying that India is the one who can stop a war or make an effort to it. India has never attacked anybody, and that's part of the history. They should be labeled as peacekeepers and peacemakers of the world.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ayushan Rutkar, please assist.
सर्वप्रथम माननीय विदेश मंत्री को मेरा नमस्कार। महोदय, मेरा प्रश्न है, भारत संयुक्त राष्ट्र सुरक्षा परिषद का अस्थायी सदस्य बनने के लिए किस प्रकार परमाणु आपूर्तिकर्ता समूह में शामिल होने का भारत का लक्ष्य अभी अधूरा है। महोदय, भारत चंद्रमा के दक्षिण ध्रुव पर उतरने वाला पहला देश बना है। यह उपलब्धि भारत को किस प्रकार से अस्थायी सदस्यता के लिए एक प्रमुख कारण बन सकता है।
अगर ठीक लगे तो अगर मैं 2-3 प्रश्न एक समय में ले लेता हूँ, इट्स ईजियर फॉर मी टू देन आंसर.
Sir, you were the foreign minister both at the time.
Hello. Okay, I can see you. Yeah, go ahead.
Give us your name and your class.
Sir, my name is Lokumar Singh, and I want to ask a question. Sir, you are the foreign minister both at the time of Chandrayaan 1 and Chandrayaan 2. Sir, I want to know how big institutions like ISRO, who have given their blood and sweat on a mission, and our government, who has spent a lot of money on mission, handle pressure and failure. So do you think that the success of Chandrayaan 3 will motivate our Indian youth? Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. This is Siddhi Krishna from Political Science Department. My question is, hello? Yeah. Give it closer to the Okay. The growing role of SECs in India, how are they going to play an important role in making India a $5 trillion economy in the near future? SEZ, what did you say?
नहीं, स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक जोन्स. एक और, वन मोर.
Namaskar, sir.
हाँ.
My question to you is, Bharat's Atmanirbhar policy, do you think it has proven to be a game changer in Bharat's image at the global platform? Could you please repeat it? Okay, sure. And please raise your hand. Thank you so much. Namaskar, sir. My question to you is, do you think Bharat's Atmanirbhar policy has proven to be a game changer for its image at the global platform?
Okay. Actually, जो आपके 3-4 प्रश्न जो थे, they had many common points also, so I will give you a collective answer. तो मैं शुरू करता हूँ UN सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल की जो परमानेंट सदस्यता जो है। देखिए, ये अभी जो UN जो है, इसकी आर्किटेक्चर जो है 1940s में बनी थी, जब सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर चल रहा था उस समय। और उसके जब बनी थी, आप याद रखिएगा कि उस समय कुल मिला के UN, पूरे UN की सदस्यता जो थी वो करीब 50 देश थे। अब वो 4 गुना बढ़े हैं। अभी दुनिया में करीब दुनिया में करीब 200 देश। तो जो आप सोचिए कि कोई भी व्यवस्था जब 50 मेंबर्स होते हैं और अब वो व्यवस्था जो है 50 से 200 हो चुकी है, तो ये कैसे संभव है कि वही लोग जो 50 को चलाते थे वो 200 को चलाएं? तो ये परिवर्तन तो आएगा, जरूर आएगा। पर इसमें क्या होता है कि जो लोग पहले, जैसे आपने देखा ना, कभी कभी आप जब यू स्पेशल में चढ़ते हैं तो जो पहले सीट में जो बैठ जाते हैं वो कभी सीट को छोड़ते नहीं। हाँ, वहीं आप खड़े हो, बस कहीं भी जा रही हो तो वो बैठे रहेंगे वहाँ, आपकी तरफ देखेंगे भी नहीं। हाँ, तो क्या होता है कि एक किस्म से UN भी ऐसा ही है। हाँ, कि जो बैठ गए, हाँ, जो बैठ गए उनको लगता है कि हमारा हक है। अब ये बाकी दुनिया नहीं मानेगी, क्योंकि आज अगर आप देखें सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल के परमानेंट मेंबरशिप से एक भी अफ्रीका का देश नहीं, एक भी लैटिन अमेरिका का देश नहीं, दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा देश पॉपुलेशन के हिसाब से, 5वां इकोनॉमी, उसको आप बाहर कितने दिन के लिए रख सकते? और जब आप रखेंगे इनको बाहर, उस क्या होता है कि क्रेडिबिलिटी, नुकसान किसको पहुंचता है? नुकसान जो है UN को होता है, क्योंकि UN की क्रेडिबिलिटी पर प्रश्न चिन्ह लग जाता है। तो UN के कुछ भी निर्णय हो तो बाकी कहते हैं कि भाई वही 5 उन्होंने लिया। तो आज मुझे लगता है ये, अगर आप एक डेमोक्रेटाइजेशन की परिप्रेक्ष्य से देखें, क्रेडिबिलिटी की सोचें, संख्या की कहीं आप ज्ञान लें, तो मुझे लगता है ये जरूर ये परिवर्तन आएगा। और हाल ही में जब हम लोग साउथ अफ्रीका गए थे ब्रिक्स में, तो इस बार ब्रिक्स की कलेक्टिव पोजीशन जो है ये भी आगे बढ़ी है कि पहली बार ब्रिक्स ने कहा है कि सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल मेंबरशिप में, मेंबरशिप्स इन प्लूरल, हाँ, सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल मेंबरशिप्स शुड अंडरगो अ चेंज। सो हिस्ट्री इज ऑन आवर साइड, आई कैन टेल इट। UN will change. The people, the countries, the people, the forces who are blocking it will keep trying, but eventually it will happen. What impact has Chandrayaan had on it? See, Chandrayaan has had an impact globally in terms of India's capability. It has had people see, one, of course, we are the 4th nation to go to the moon, but we landed close to the South Pole, which was very difficult. So, you know, this is like taking an exam, but you have deliberately chosen a very tough paper to pass. So your credit is even more, and people recognize that. Then people ask themselves, I mean, one question again I got when I was abroad, you know, that we heard that this is at such a, competitive cost. But that is again, you know, how India works. So it has become today, Chandrayaan is certainly an enormous scientific achievement, technology achievement, but it is seen today as a national achievement, as a national branding, as a national statement that India can do this. And that will certainly increase our credibility and respect that we have in the world. And definitely, because, you know, even when Security Council, jab bhi reform aayega, remember, people vote for you. Just like, you know, I mean, in a way, in the world level also, for different positions, every year for some body, somewhere, there's always some voting. And we always do well. But I'm sure achievements like this will increase our support. Now, जो आपका जो सवाल था कि मोटिवेशन आप चंद्रयान 2 और 3 की तुलना जो कर रहे थे, देखिए इसका जो है आई थिंक इट वाज बेस्ट आंसर्ड बाय द प्राइम मिनिस्टर हिमसेल्फ। जब मैं, क्योंकि मैं उनके साथ था जब वो बेंगलुरु गए और जब वो इसरो हेडक्वार्टर्स वो साइंटिस्ट से जब मिलने गए, तो उन्होंने कहा वहाँ कि जो जहाँ चंद्रयान 3 जहाँ लैंडिंग हुई थी उसको उन्होंने उसका नामकरण किया। बट ही सेड आई डू नॉट वांट टू फॉरगेट वेयर चंद्रयान 2 आल्सो लैंडेड बिकॉज, बट ही सेड उस दिन मेरा मन नहीं था टू गिव अ नेम। सो वी शुड लुक इन लाइफ फॉर अ कंट्री, फॉर अ पर्सन, you will not get success every time. Life is not without challenges. There will be, you can say, disappointments. But the strength of a country, like the strength of a person, is to draw motivation from it. So I can tell you, because that day we were sitting with all these scientists, and they were really remarkable people. I got the sense they were actually all motivated by Chandrayaan 2. That for them, okay, that happened, now we will show this time. That definitely, you know, this is an ISRO which can achieve this is a country which can achieve it. So I think it was taken in that sense really as a motivating factor. जो अंत में 2 सवाल जो हैं, SEZ and the Atmanirbhar Bharat, because they are also connected. Today, you know, again, I give you some personal examples. Recently, Prime Minister went to America. Many of you would have seen it, you would have heard it. It was to me, very interesting that some of the leading semiconductor manufacturing companies of the world actually did agreements with us and are already today in India following up on those agreements, even though it's just a few months. This shows today that in very cutting edge areas, today, you know, a very famous case which all of you will know is Apple. You know, that Apple today has chosen to make India a production center. It is a statement about the change, how much easier it is to do business, how much better our infrastructure has become because of Gati Shakti, how much easier of living. That, you know, regulations come hai, forms come hai, it's just so much easier to operate in India. So the hard work of the last 10 years is today paying off in terms of how the world looks at us. And one way the world looks at us very differently is it's no accident that investments into India by the brand name, you know, by the really top companies of the world, those are growing. And ultimately, see, it is not our destiny to be a market for other people. We are India. We are the largest country in the world. We will, God willing, be the 3rd largest economy very soon. We have our talent, our creativity must be given the opportunities to express itself. And certainly, Atmanirbhar Bharat is a vision. It is a vision that we can make in India. We can make the best products in India. We can make for the world. That at the end of the day, when we speak about SEZ, when we speak about Atmanirbhar Bharat,